Welcome back to another episode of Right Here in Mass. Joining me today is Patrick O'Connor, who has served as the state senator for the 1st Plymouth and Norfolk district since 2016. As a lifelong resident and now state senator representing the South Shore, supporting and recognizing local businesses throughout the district has been of the utmost importance to him. Over the years, he has made a point to celebrate small businesses throughout the district as an important driver for both state and national economic growth. Senator O'Connor, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ashley. I appreciate you having me and also for doing this. I think there's really a lot of awesome stuff happening on the South Shore, and it's good to highlight it. And it's been a real honor to be able to represent the South Shore for the past 8.5 years up on Beacon Hill and obviously throughout the district and seeing all the really amazing people that call the South Shore home and all the amazing businesses that, really breathe life into what we have going on down here.
Absolutely. And I'm super excited to have you here to just be able to talk about how you've supported the South Shore, how the South Shore continues to grow, and all of that fun stuff. But before we dive into that, I'd love to actually talk about you to begin and share kind of how you got into the position that you are today as the state senator. So feel free to just dive right in and tell us more about your journey.
Sure. So I grew up in Weymouth and had a very blue collar upbringing. My dad's a plumber, my mom's a nurse, and a lot of times when my mother she'd work at nights in the neonatal intensive care unit, my dad would work days, but he'd be on call. A lot of times the available babysitter was my grandmother, and she lived in Cambridge, and she was very involved in everything politics, local politics in particular. She actually, when she was 18 years old, was a secretary up at the State House for Tip O'Neill, who she grew up a few houses down from when he was a member of the State House of Representatives from Cambridge. And so that was sort of my introduction to it. I would see really a lot of things that she had concerns about, whether they be as small as potholes on the street or signs, street signs, things like that. And I actually saw just through getting continuously dropped off there for daycare and for things like that. I saw things actually starting to resolve themselves. And I thought, well, this is interesting that, at the local level, there is something that my grandmother was concerned about and a group of her friends, and they were able to bring it up to people who they trusted to represent them, and they addressed the issue. They provided a solution to a problem. And that was my first introduction to it. And then when when I was in high school, Weymouth actually changed from a town to a city, and so that changed the whole form of government and made us out of a mayor and city councilors and things like that. And it was really a hotbed for political activity. Everybody was running, lawn signs everywhere, friends of friends, friends of the family. Everybody was, getting involved. So that was my first introduction to sort of campaigns. I was able to be a class officer in Weymouth. I was the vice president of my class. Then I went to school over in London, England, did my undergrad degree over there. And when I came back, the various times that I'd come back, I saw a lot of problems that were happening. At that point in time, it was prescription drug abuse from people who I went to school with. And when I go back to London, there wasn't that going on over there. And I just really didn't understand what was happening, in Weymouth or throughout the South Shore or really, what has now swept and, since that point in time has swept the nation as far as a prescription drug and then regressing to heroin and then regressing to fentanyl, epidemic that's really sad and tragic and has cost, hundreds of thousands of people's lives. But nothing was happening. And so once I came back from London, I, at 21 years old, ran for city council. I was able to be in that position for 12 years. And then the seat opened up for the state senate. And I was able to run for that and really take a very pragmatic, community based approach towards government. I think that when you look at what's happening right now, it's very loud. I think that you need to be above that to be in government, and really at its core, government's job is about providing solutions to problems, just like they were when I first watched it when I was a little kid, and the concerns and the division were a lot less. But now I think that being in this position that we're in, and just the makeup of the South Shore the way that it is, my role has always been to go up and be the voice, and that's why I'm always trying to be out in the community to hear what's on people's minds, to hear their concerns, their frustrations, their fears, their hopes, everything that comes along with just living day to day, and to try and bring that into provide solutions to problems they have, but to also put in place policy to make lives better, especially for those less fortunate in our communities. And that's been my approach. I think that the Democrat Republican thing has gone way too far. I try and work with all of my colleagues on a very collegial basis to try and just get things done because I think at the end of the day, the majority of the people who live in the South Shore, and I think the majority of people in this country, really want the noise to quiet down and government to get back to its core, which is helping people.
Absolutely. And I think it's so interesting the point that you brought up about how you compared what you saw in London to what you saw when you came back home to Weymouth and kind of thinking to yourself, there's something not quite right here, and kind of using that as your driver to make a change. And knowing that you've been in this position for almost 9 years, I'd love to hear how things have transformed since when you started in 2016 and kind of how that led to where they are now within the South Shore.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that we were able to accomplish as far as for our economy was replacing the Fort River Bridge. That was a multi-$100 million bridge project that was long overdue and needed to get done. And I was proud in the first few years of being the state senator, we were able to see that through to fruition and get that done. And that's really opened up the opportunity for us to continue to expand that economic development down all throughout 3A. We see it right now where there's a project going on in Hingham, a very expensive project to reconfigure and redo 3A to make it more it's driver friendly, but also more friendly for the development of housing as well as the development of businesses. And so, what we've been doing has been really focusing on how can we help each individual community deal with the challenges that they've had without having to spend local taxpayer dollars to fix those issues. How can we go to the state and leverage the resources that we have, which are much more vast than a local community, which, sometimes is playing with a couple $100,000 in wiggle room in each one of their budgets. And how can we help them advance their goals, obtain new growth, and, make their budgets a lot better off than when we had them. So, it's been great. We've worked with our disability organizations that are down here on the South Shore to change laws to protect individuals with disabilities. We've worked with our food pantries to make sure that anyone on the South Shore who's food insecure has access to healthy food options, and just across the board. It's been a real pleasure to be able to get to meet and know and work with so many different groups of people throughout the South Shore whose missions are different,
Mhm.
but whose charge is the same, which is to build community here. One great example is, and one thing and why I love what you're doing is that we've lost the local papers in 6 out of the 8
Right.
towns that I represent. The local papers have gone by the wayside. So the movement of information of what's happening in your hometown is a lot less available than it's ever been, and it shouldn't be because of how connected we all are. And so one of the things when we still had the papers that I read about was a woman in Hingham, Kenzie Blackwell, who at that point in time was running a drive for period products out of St. John's the Evangelist Church in Hingham. And so I brought her in. I saw her. I wrote a little note, as I typically do, to try and just encourage people to continue to do good throughout the South Shore. And we've been able to have a conversation from that. And we've been able to invest state resources to the tune of about $700,000 now to
Wow.
expand that mission from the basement at St. John's the Evangelist Church to giving away well over 1 million period products now to primarily our schools, in hopes that we can build the infrastructure in place that the state can fund this
Mhm.
at a level that is going to make sure that any kid who goes to our public school system who needs that is able to get it. And that again just is one of those things that organically happens, is that, keeping a pulse on the district is very important to me, and being able to encourage and support work that's going on, because government's not always going to be the solution, but I think government can be a good validator, and as well as a good investor in things that, if average everyday people weren't going above and beyond and doing it themselves, then it would lead to a situation where government at some time have to take on that role. So it's great to see the things that are happening here on the South Shore and to be able to support them. And we've helped thousands of people in their individual cases, from as easy as fixing a pothole to as difficult as finding a place to sleep that night.
Mhm.
And that's really been at its core what we've really been trying to do, is to build community, to put people above politics and party and all that other stuff, and provide people representation that they can be proud of and that they deserve. because people here are very active and engaged, and they want to be, in my opinion, helpful to the greater good.
Absolutely. And through all of the initiatives and programs that you've been a part of, like you mentioned, the period products and also the bridge, is there any, I guess, accomplishment that is your favorite or one that really means a lot to you that you've been able to have your hands in ultimately?
Yeah, the biggest one. So I had touched on our disability providers. In my opinion, I think that the South Shore actually has the greatest disability infrastructure, support systems, opportunities for any individual with disabilities in the entire country. And I've been to other places and seen what they do, and right here with top to bottom from Weymouth down to Duxbury, you have organizations that are just doing amazing work, and so we've really dug deep into the disability policy space. When I first was elected, Ann and Paul Joyce came to my office, and they talked about a situation that was happening with their son Dana, who was in a group home residential setting, and they would take him on weekends. And when they would drop him back off at his home that he lived on, basically Sunday through Thursday, being taken care of by people who are human service workers who are employed by the state, caretakers, they'd noticed apprehension. And Dana had Angelman's syndrome, which leads him to be nonverbal. So Anne just went off mother's intuition and thought that something was wrong. And so she put in place a nanny cam to see what was going on day to day inside of Dana's life. And she was able to record two individuals who, a male and a female, who were abusing her son in a group home that's run by the state. And the crux of the story actually happens after that. State police get involved, that's taken care of. But one of the individuals actually applied for a job at another residential organization, another provider organization. And because the incident was fresh and some things take time to catch up, they would have hired this individual, but it just so happened to be the same company that Anne works for. So when Anne had Dana, she was a nurse by trade and dedicated her life from that point in time to working as a nurse in the disability setting. And she worked for this organization. She said, no, that's the individual who, there's a burden of proof that this individual abused my son. And they had said, had it not been for her actually working there, because of how short staffed people are in human services, they would have hired that individual. And who knows if that individual would have committed, more violence against individuals with disabilities. But luckily, they were able to stop it. And then they came to us and said, how is this happening? How is somebody like that able to fall through the cracks? And we looked into it, and we saw and identified how that's happening. And what we did was we created a registry named Dana's Law, and we pitched it as by basically saying all these provider organizations have to look at this registry prior towards hiring an individual to take care of somebody who has disabilities. And it took us 4 years. And it just so happened that when we filed this, a senator out of Worcester area, Mike Moore, filed a similar bill on behalf of the Chans entitled Nikki's Bill. And so we had Dana's bill and Nikki's bill that were out there. And then when we had a public hearing on this bill, we had people from all across the state come out and talk about instances where this was happening. Provider organizations, families, individuals with disabilities themselves that were coming out and saying, this is a major problem. You have a major loophole as far as the hiring practices go for people who have been accused of or convicted of abusing individuals with disabilities. So it took us 4 years. We were able to put the registry in place, negotiate with all the people we needed to negotiate, get things done. And right before COVID, former Governor Baker, signed it into the law. And since then, it's stopped 100 plus individuals from entering into the workforce that have no business taking care of individuals with disabilities because something in their past there was violence that would lead us to believe that they're not equipped to be able to do that. And so we've been able to pass that and work in other disability policy spaces. But that's really, sort of the crowning achievement, because it started as a mother and a father not knowing what to do about their disabled son who was being abused by somebody, and that the state laws that were in place weren't strong enough to make sure that that person didn't do it again. And we were able to put something in place to make sure that those people don't do that again. And continuing to work in policy matters like that are important to me. It's those things that, people can agree and disagree on all the big ticket issues of the day. There's so many underlying issues that there's unanimous support for, that still need work on. And those are really the things that are challenging to get the attention of people in a very crowded public policy space where a lot of people looking for cheap talking points are really looking to breed that division. And with our office and what we've been trying to do is really focusing on situations that have happened and how can we make it better that it either never happens again or that what happened that wrong has been righted.
That's an incredible story, and I can't even imagine, like, the amount of gratification that you must feel just every day knowing that you play a role in helping residents of the state and families and businesses just be able to make a difference and make a positive change, especially knowing that you help to kind of amplify their voices of the people who are kind of like have their feet on the ground and being able to support them with pushing the needle forward. I think that's amazing.
No, I appreciate it. And honestly, it's an honor to be able to do it. I say it every single time that I talk to somebody. It's just it's unique. I never thought I didn't know when I got back from college that we'd run into those situations in Weymouth that would spark me to get involved in sort of the elected official role as quickly as I did. I didn't know if I was going to be something behind the scenes. Didn't know if I want to go into business. But this has really spoken to me over these past 19 years since I've been involved in government and entirely, and almost 9 years in the Senate, where there's a huge role for government to play if it's done correctly. And I hope that at some point in time when we leave this office, we can kind of bring a blueprint to how we think that it can be done correctly and how people can feel comfortable, regardless of your party affiliation, with the person that represents you.
Absolutely. And knowing what you've been a part of for the past almost 9 years, what would you say is next? Or what are the goals that you have or things that you really like to get your hands in the coming years?
Yeah, so we filed the second most amount of bills in the legislature last year. We filed 138 bills. So there's a lot of bills that we've been working on that we've been trying to get across the finish line. Some are in the disability policy space, some are in the veteran space. There's some issues that we've identified in some of our statistics that we find alarming. One of the things that I've been working on is to bring financial literacy to every school district in the Commonwealth. I think that we are lagging behind substantially other states at this point in time when it comes to financial literacy and the technology and people who have become involved inside the financial literacy space have really revolutionized it. And I think now's the time for the state to mandate financial literacy education K to 12. Kindergarten, elementary school level can be as simple as figuring out what dollars and cents mean. At the middle school level, you can look into what a paper route would do, or how to apply for a job, and what different elements of that are, how to wrap your head around that stuff. And then at the high school level, buying a car for the first time, figuring out what the cost of college is going to be if you're not going to college, trade schools, or right into a job. Learning all of these things, savings accounts, stocks. I always say, you can pick up your phone right now and literally apply for a home loan. And there's still a lot of, bad actors out there in the financial services space. So we need to give as many tools as we possibly can to our youth to make sure that they have a safe financial future. And the best way to do that is to build a foundation through education. I think the best way to do anything is to build a foundation through education. And so having this financial literacy through K through 12, I think, is really going to be a game changer for future generations to make sure that they know the value of their dollar, their hard work, and what they can do and how they can retire. And if they get sick, how they can pay for it. All these different things are, in my opinion, a relative unknown to the vast majority of students, and they really shouldn't be. And incorporating into our public schools, I think, is very important. And we're really working hard. I've gotten a co-sponsor in Treasurer Goldberg. So we have some statewide bipartisan leadership on this, and it's looking good that we're going to make some strides in the next session with this. And my hope is that we can get that done, relatively soon. But of the 138 bills, that's one that comes to mind. But honestly, we're working on a lot of stuff to try and help a lot of people, and really to, as I said, try to correct some of the things that we think are either inadequate or going the wrong way in the state.
I love the focus on financial literacy, especially because, as you mentioned, the first step in kind of making that change is just educating or receiving education on that topic. And especially because there's so much research out there about how, young individuals, whether they're kids or young adults, kind of learn their money habits from their parents or their caretakers or whoever their guardians are. And so it can be difficult to kind of break the habit or learn things that they might not previously know. And I think that's critical of what you're doing to kind of help bring it into that K through 12 space and give people the education, the resources that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
No, I completely agree. And you know, that's one of the things is, you know, money and, you know, for better or for worse, money moves the world. And to be able to have that skill set and develop it over a period of time throughout your entire academic career at the public school level, I think will really lead towards positive results for our economy and positive results in those people's lives where they're able to make purchases that they might not have otherwise thought they could, or you know, figured out a best path to go to college now that you know the state offers community college for free. It's you know there's a lot of different avenues that people can take out there that are um, sort of less than traditional. And I think that to be able to explore all of those, you really need a good sort of footing in place. And that's what, you know, we hope to do is to build that foundation that people can then grow upon.
Absolutely. And focusing on the South Shore specifically, I'd love to hear from your perspective what makes it such a great region to focus on economic growth and businesses compared to other parts of the state. Because anyone who lives and works in the South Shore knows what makes it unique. But I think it's interesting to hear why it's such a great community or a great spot to really learn, grow, thrive, and just be able to move forward.
I mean, we have it all. And I always say this that I'm very biased, being the state senator who represents the South Shore, but I do honestly believe that the South Shore is the best part of the entire state of Massachusetts. And I think that Massachusetts is the best state in the nation. So, you know, de facto could potentially be one of the best spots in the country. Um, I just think we really have it all. You know, the 8 communities that I represent that I would, you know, consider the South Shore all have you know great school systems. You have people who are involved in their communities. You have people who still act like neighbors, which I had a conversation with somebody about the other day, where they thought that one of the things that was really lacking in society now is people treating each other like neighbors. You know, people can go and move into a community and you know isolate themselves and get in like their you know certain friend group and do that, but in the South Shore, I feel like there's so much of that everyone feels connected just because they are part of the same town, or they are part of the same organization, or even just the region. And we're so connected and we're so identified by our beautiful coastline, our amazing beaches and parks and businesses, and we have no problem investing in our community. One of the ways in which you're able to invest in the community is by the taxpayers saying and voting that they want to invest more money into things. And we've seen that time and time again throughout the South Shore, where people want to build a new school. We just recently built one in Weymouth. People want to build a new library. We just built one in Norwell. People want to have these amenities because they want to leave the South Shore a better place than they got it. And there's not a lot of buy-in in a lot of other places, in my opinion, as there is in the South Shore, where you have just a collective group of people who are looking to make their community a better place, make their region a better place, and make the world a better place. And there's so much of it happening. You know, when you go to different events and you see these organizations, or you know, you read a story about you know a group of Girl Scouts, you know, sending Girl Scout cookies to troops overseas, or you know, you see things that you know shouldn't be unique to the South Shore, but are that you'd like to see, you know, kind of spread across the entire state or spread across the entire country. But you see people that, you know, come from you know, a background that they believe in giving back. It's a responsibility of theirs. And, you know, politically speaking, I think it's one of the most politically unpredictable districts. And I think that also tells us the story of the South Shore, where, you know, there's a myself being a Republican in the state Senate. The state reps that are in the district are primarily Democrat, and the electorate switches back and forth between elections on who the better candidate is when it comes to president or governor. So you know, it's one of those real swing purple districts that believe in community, that believe in hard work, that are willing to take chances on people and on businesses and on things. And it's a beautiful collection of human beings who are doing their best day in and day out and have built a really good society down here. and are, willing to protect it and invest in it and open their arms and their doors to, others.
Yeah, I love that. For any business who's looking to set up shop on the South Shore, do you have any resources or organizations that you would recommend to them for just being able to get started and kind of provide them with the support they might need to grow and flourish?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the chambers of commerce are great throughout the entire district and the South Shore, collectively. The best way, and in some of the ways when we talk to business owners, that they've been able to, sort of figure out the South Shore as their spot is that they're here. That's again something that's awesome about the businesses that are here is that people are not just investing, their hard-earned money and in the community and in property taxes and things like that, but then they go above and beyond and actually start their own, business and operation here. But for those that aren't from the South Shore, I would say, you're welcome to come here. You're welcomed when you get here, and we want to see that. We want to see a wide variety of different businesses open up here, from restaurants and bars to clothing to other activities. We just recently went to Noted, who opened up a beautiful sort of new age gift shop with also a candle making component to it. Like, we want these things. We want people to look at the South Shore as one of those destinations, and our office can be a resource when it comes to that. We would connect them with one of the different offices that the state has to increase business development. We're always looking to partner with businesses and provide grants. We have bills that are up on Beacon Hill to really look at how can we continue to expand and grow small business here in the South Shore, especially those that are kind of thinking outside of the box of the traditional status quo. And so the best way that I can say it is you're welcomed here in the South Shore, and there are a lot of resources that from current businesses that exist that don't look at you as competition, but look at you as something that's going to be added to the fabric of the business community, to our structured organizations like the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, to their legislature, the legislators that represent them, to the local towns. We just recently had another business open up in Norwell, and they were working to get their permits in on time, and the town was great to work with them. They reached out to our office and they got that all done. So we're trying to put as few obstacles in place from people who want to open up here in the South Shore and who want to call the South Shore home for their business.
And I love that, especially because the business owners who really start up in this area are giving back to the community and helping to drive that economic growth forward. And so it's kind of like an ongoing circle of just going around and around, of being able to spread around all of the positivity and great outcomes from one organization to another.
It's amazing. So when I go to it was just the tail end of gala season. I think I got like one or two more that are left. But you look at the different boards of the people who are the platinum sponsors and the gold sponsors, and you see so many. It's littered with local businesses who are wanting to give back, and a lot of them are the same ones every single time. You see the same companies that are up there, and other ones pick their different causes and charities, which thank God for both of those sets of people, because they're giving back. But you see it time and time again, where there's just so many businesses that once they became successful, they knew that giving was a responsibility of theirs, and all of that really builds into who we are in the South Shore, where our success translates into others' success as well.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned the work that you'll be doing with bringing financial literacy into the schools, but are there any opportunities for the South Shore specifically that might be coming up, or anything that should be on anyone's radar as they're listening to this episode?
Yeah, so I mean, we work with the communities pretty regularly. Anytime that sort of any opportunity comes our way. During COVID, we were able to work with the Marshfield Chamber of Commerce and secure grant money that went directly out to. It was a very unique model that Laura Brait put in place to invest money in sort of one company that was going to purchase it from another company, so it would hit two companies. And we try and do that stuff all the time too. So when budget season comes upon us, we do our budget in May in the Senate. What I try and do is reach out to constituents, business groups, nonprofits. I welcome anyone who's listening to the show to reach out to us if there's ideas that you have as far as how we can grow business on the South Shore, grow community on the South Shore, meet a need that's not being met right now, we welcome that because we'll take all that information and collectively try and put something in place that makes sense as far as the allotment of money that we have that year and what we can do. But we try and invest a couple $1 million every single year just through direct budgeting from the Senate budget to the district to try and really make a difference. And we look and identify business grants and things like that. And every so often we'll put up on our social media. We have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all them. When the state has opened up grants for small businesses, and it could be something like right now, we just got a grant proposal. They're going to give away a couple $100,000 to nonprofits who are going to try and teach more individuals how to swim. So, they're going to offset the cost of swimming lessons to some of these nonprofits. So we'll send something like that to the Marshfield Boys and Girls Club and to other organizations. There's an organization, Swim with a Special Child in Weymouth. So we'll try and, just by gaining the information that we've had over the past 9 years, knowing who sort of some of the players are, and then growing our social media reach, what we try and do is get as much information out as quickly as possible so that the South Shore can compete at the best they possibly can for these dollars that are out there.
Amazing. And on the topic of supporting local businesses, I would love to hear what your favorite local businesses are to support and frequent on the South Shore.
Sure. So I'm going to go with restaurants, and we'll start in Weymouth. So Grill 151 is amazing. Krista Mambro owns it. The Rotary Club in Weymouth have their meetings there, and it's just a great spot to. It's like American cocktails and American cuisine type of place. It's unbelievable. And then I'm a sucker for bar pie. So Next Page Pizza, which got a
Yum.
review recently by Dave Portnoy. I think a very good review too. They're great. Marshfield, we go to a veterans meeting once a month at the Hop, and I just think the breakfast at the Hop is great. And then I also love Gerard Farm. I love sort of that type of atmosphere and family-run companies that offer more unique stuff. And being out late a lot of nights, I pop something in the oven to cook when I get home. So their turkey pies and turkey dinners are a godsend. On that same thing, Bonji's in Duxbury, the Raw Bar that Island Creek opened up is great. I went there over the summertime, and I just can't speak more highly of what they've been able to do there. Hingham, my favorite restaurant in the entire South Shore. No offense to anyone, is Tosca. I think the Tosca is just really one of the best steakhouses in the entire state and offers so much. And then for a quick bite, I like to go to Crow Point to get their buffalo chicken tenders. Cohasset Red Lion has always been a staple. I just think it's beautiful in there and really brings you back to sort of the old of what the South Shore used to be. And then 5 South Main, which adds like a kind of a newer flair. I think that they do a really good job there. Cheever Tavern in Norwell, I think is great. Quick bite to eat, but just a good place to watch a game. Hornstra Farm, I go there quite frequently. Their ice cream's great. I think they're closed for the season now, but the ice cream, the marketplace is phenomenal there. You get to see the cows that were recently born. It's just a great place to bring the entire family. Scituate, I think the entire Scituate Harbor area has gone through such a transformation, even since the time I've been in office. You have Maria's, which has been the staple, but Hibernian, TK's, Mill Wharf, Salt Society. I mean, you really have a lot of stuff going on down there. And when they do specialty events, when they, close the street or, semi-close it or offer free music or things like that, it really is a good vibe down there. And then last but not least, Hull, which is great because one of my favorite food trucks, South Shore Taco Guy, just opened up brick and mortar. Went and saw him when he opened up. But the Parrot does a great job down there. Shipwrecked, if for more of a towny feel. All these places are just are great, and it's really amazing that we have that much variety. And I'm obviously going to get crap from the businesses I didn't mention, but I go to a lot of places. And we've been to a lot of these places opening up. The ones Cheaper Tavern we went when they opened up, Hibernian we went when they opened up. Anytime that businesses open up on the South Shore, we like to go there and recognize them, let them know who we are, the resources that we might be able to provide to them, but also just say thank you. Thank you for investing in our community. Thank you for giving more options for people in the South Shore. And we wish them nothing but success. And we want to see that because we've seen so many of these places over the last 9 years that I go to, and we open them up, and then 3 years later, 4 years later, they're a part of the fabric of that community, and they're the ones that are on those boards that I talked about, investing into services for the youth or the disabled or our seniors. And that's what matters, is that continuation of business startup to fabric of the community to investor of the community continues, because it's been working so incredibly well for so long here on the South Shore. And the business owners are all across the board, treat their employees with respect and dignity, and they treat their customers the same way. And the South Shore returns the favor by continuing to patronize these businesses and, provide them with our hard-earned dollars for a good service or for a good meal or for a good product.
You nailed it. There are so many places that you listed that I feel like I now need to add to my list to try. But Senator O'Connor, this has been a really great episode, and I've really appreciated having the opportunity to have you come on the show and talk about everything that's been happening within the South Shore. And now I'd love to give you the opportunity to share with our listeners where they can find you online in case they'd like to connect further and learn more about what's going on.
Sure. So we're at senatoroconnor.com. All Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We haven't ventured into TikTok yet. I don't know if we will, but we're on all those social media platforms. And then 617-722-1646 is our number. We're staffed Monday through Friday. We have an office in Weymouth now at 855 Washington Street that we pay for ourselves out of no taxpayers' expense. We've opened up sort of a satellite district office to bring Beacon Hill down to the South Shore in case anyone has any concerns that they, don't want to go to Boston. Or we're available by Zoom. Really, we try and make ourselves very available, and we're all throughout the district. So if you see us, come up to us, say hello, and if there's anything we can do to provide, any help to any issue that you have, please just let us know.
Amazing. And I will include links to all those places in the show notes, that way our listeners can click through and connect with you from there. But thank you so much again for coming on today's show.
Thanks, Ashley. I really appreciate it.